My name is Peter Klein, and I spill water on myself literally as we were starting the show. Welcome to the program. A busy one today. We're going to continue our Wrestlemania previews. Just a couple things that I noticed about the build to Wrestlemania and just the overall thoughts on the show, plus some people who could be called up the night after WrestleMania and some other matches to check out around the event. But before we get to that, a new contender has emerged in the NHL. It's a familiar one. Also, some devastating news for a contender in the NBA. But we begin today, a little bit of baseball talk. So we're 7 games into the season, and a lot of times I would be saying, don't panic, too early, small sample size, blah, 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 blah. But I do have a rule that there is a specific time where it's okay to panic. And that time is when you had an issue the season before, did not overly address that issue in the offseason. It was projected to be an issue at the start of the season, and then through 7 games, the majority of them anyway, it's been an issue. Then I feel like it's okay to start just absolutely hammering the panic button. And that's where I'm at with the Toronto Blue Jays and the offense that has just absolutely sputtered. 9 hits in their series against the Houston Astros. Just a couple of runs to speak of. And those runs coming off of a home run in the top of the 9th inning after a couple of weird circumstances around it. Just an absolutely putrid performance by this Blue Jays offense. And I feel like I got a little bit in this because I bought into the spring training hype of, look, new approach at the plate. They're going to be waiting for their pitch. They're going to be hitting it, and it's going to be great. And then we get to the regular season, and the first game, they're great. And after that, it's, oh, well, we're a mashing team. And it's just swing for the fences, swing for the fences, swing for the fences. That's not how this works. That's not how this team is going to win games. Yes, Vladdy can hit the ball 450 feet. But the rest of y'all kind of need 3, 4, 5 hits strung together to end up having any kind of success on the offensive side of things. Like, this is a team that is going to have to scratch and claw to score runs this season. And they're going up there as if each and every one of them is Mark McGwire, who can just like change the game with one swing. No, that's not how this team is going to be. So this has been a really, really frustrating start to the season so far, and has just completely blown up the, oh, it's a new approach look at how things are going. Just an awful series. And the problem is, like, as it's going along, as the game is going on, there's no change to anything. It's like, well, gonna try it again. Oh, no, didn't happen. All right, gonna try it again. Oh, no, it didn't happen either. Like, there's no adjustment up there at this point. And it is incredibly frustrating to see how that has all kind of sort of come together. And I think there's a real concern on a couple of different points. One, I think you have to be concerned about losing this fan base. Everyone was quite pissed about how the offseason went. Obviously, we were very excited about the potential of a Shohei Ohtani. That didn't happen. And then they pivoted, and it was Justin Turner. And all due respect to Justin Turner, I think he's exactly what this Blue Jays team needed. But they also needed a little bit more than that. And so you have a fan base that has been sold hope for 4 years now. And all they have out of it is 4 relatively embarrassing playoff losses, no playoff wins, and 2 years from now, no guarantee that the savior of the franchise is even going to be here. So if this season continues down this path, and this is the part where you have to understand that it's early, and that you've played the Tampa Bay Rays and the Houston Astros in back-to-back series, and you're going to be playing the Yankees. But if this kind of continues down this path, and it's just, well, it's 85 to 89 wins, and we'll see what happens in 2 games in the play-in if we get into it, and we'll go from there. This fan base has kind of had enough of that. And Blue Jays fans will get behind this team at the slightest sign that things are going to go well, right? Like, that's why it got so crazy in 15 and 16, because for 22 years, they didn't really have anything to get behind. And, like, you get big crowds on opening day and stuff like that, but then even in 13, they got big crowds after they made the giant trade with the Miami Marlins that ended up not really panning out. And that's why, like, you've seen an uptick of Blue Jays jerseys and Blue Jays attention all over the place over the last couple of seasons because there's been hope. Now you kind of have to sell people that this is just legitimately a good baseball team. And through 7 games, they've looked like a good baseball team twice. And so I do wonder if you are going to start to see a bit of a dip in fan interest and a bit of a dip in some of those TV ratings. I do also think that there is a concern for John Schneider's job. Not that they're going to fire him after 8 games or anything like that, but after how last season ended, this is a guy who needed this Blue Jays team to get off to a good start. And that's not the case. And it was always going to be a very difficult schedule to get off to a good start in. But still, this is a guy who needs this team to look more functional than they have. Alejandro Kirk cannot be making some of the mistakes that he is making behind home plate. This team cannot be having uncompetitive at-bats basically for an entire series against one of the top teams in the American League and have this guy keep his job. So I think there is quite a bit on the line with this team. You look at it, Jeff Passan tweeted out today, run differential after the first couple series of the season. The Blue Jays have a better run differential than exactly 4 teams. Miami, who I don't believe have won yet. Oakland, who are going to be playing in a AAA stadium next year, and they might be underqualified for that. And Colorado, who are just bad. That's it. Those are the teams that the Blue Jays have a better run differential than this season. Just 3 teams. I think I said 4 before. Just 3 teams. It's quite terrible what this team is looking like offensively right now. And I think that there are big concerns around this Blue Jays team, and I think they are all very justified. Speaking of Oakland, what a disaster of a situation this has turned into. And it's so unfortunate because this is an excellent fan base. You look at how it looked like a mosh pit broke out at their games a few years ago when Grant Balfour was coming in and saving games. And it's like, this isn't just some also-ran franchise or whatever. This is the Oakland A's. Like, there is a pretty storied history with this team, with guys like McGuire and Canseco. They've won championships. Reggie Jackson played there. Like, they've won championships. They were a marquee franchise for a while, and it has just been wasted away. And they've basically become baseball's minor league team with, like, Marcus Semien getting a chance with the Blue Jays, and Matt Olson getting traded, and Sean Murphy getting traded, and Matt Chapman getting traded. Like, there was a good baseball team there not too long ago, and their owner has just completely gutted this team to the point where no one wants to come to the games now. So, oh, well, we have to move now. Absolutely embarrassing and heartbreaking what's happened out in Oakland. All right, let's move to hockey talk, where a familiar face has emerged as a contender as we approach the Stanley Cup playoffs. All right, stop me if you've heard this before. We're approaching the Stanley Cup final, and the Tampa Bay Lightning look like they could be dangerous. At least we're approaching the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the Lightning look like they could be a real problem. That's where we are at right now in the NHL, because once again, the Tampa Bay Lightning are popping their heads out like, oh, hey, remember us? Yeah, we're going to be an issue. And the reason that you feel more confident about that now is what's going on between the pipes. As Andrei Vasilevskiy has remembered who he is and is now playing like one of the best goalies in the world. And when he is on, there is not another better goalie in the world. Like, everyone at the peak of their powers, it's that dude. And when he is playing that good, he can just straight steal a series for Tampa Bay. And so this is a classic peaking at the right time, don't want to play them in the first round. But if the playoffs were today, Boston's playing Tampa Bay in the first round. And I don't think they're comfortable about that for 1 second. I don't know if I would pick Boston in that particular series, given how well Vasilevskiy has played. 2.39 goals against average in the month of March, coming off of a 4-1 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. This team still has a lot of talent. And I know, like, they've lost a lot of talent, but this is still a very talented hockey club when you look at Vasilevskiy between the pipes, if he is playing that well, right? They still have Kucherov, who could win the Hart this year. Brayden Point, who's really good. Steven Stamkos, ditto. Hedman, like, all on down the line. Like, is it as deep as it was a few years ago? No, it is not. But it is still a really, really good hockey team. And if they have the best goalie in the world, all of a sudden they become a real problem in the East. And I think overall, like, you look at where the NHL is at right now, As we sit here today, who has a chance to win the Stanley Cup? Like, who, if at the end of it they won, would you be like, well, that was surprising? Because it's not many, honestly, in the entirety of the playoffs. In the West right now, Vancouver, Edmonton, Vegas, your top three in the Pacific, could see all three of them winning the Stanley Cup, right? Vancouver playing out of their minds, excellent team game. Again, really, really good goalie, and Quinn Hughes is on fire. Edmonton, it's McDavid. Vegas literally did it last year, and by the time the playoffs roll around, might be a better hockey team than they were a year ago. By the way, Noah Hannafin, absolutely kicking ass. In the Central, Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg. Could see every one of those teams winning it, right? Dallas is getting 30 goals from just everywhere. Colorado might be the most complete team in the NHL, and then Winnipeg has Connor Hellebuck and have added a ton of scoring over the past little bit. Hasn't really clicked the way they would want it to, but still, if it does, they are such a deep team and such a talented team. And then the wild card, Nashville, that would surprise me. They have the goalie, but they don't really have a whole lot else. And that is with all due respect to the run that they are on right now. And the Kings, I could see the Kings winning it. We did it the hit on 960. The goalie situation you don't love, but Byfield's turned into a 20-goal scorer. Kopitar is still awesome. They are incredibly deep down the middle and seem built for playoff hockey. So they could be a team, absolutely, that goes on to win the Stanley Cup. In the East, in the Atlantic, Boston, Florida, Toronto. Make your Toronto jokes, yes, but they are a talented enough team that they could win the Stanley Cup. Same thing goes for Florida and Boston. You go to the Metropolitan Division, Rangers and Carolina, both 100% you could see winning the Stanley Cup. And then you get to the Philadelphia, Washington area, but Tampa Bay, the other one in there, they could totally win the Cup. So when we're going through, whoever the last wildcard team in the East is, probably ain't going to win it. Philadelphia, probably ain't going to win it. In the West, Nashville, probably not. That's it. This is going to be an incredible postseason. You have so many teams that feel like they are right there for winning a Stanley Cup. So many teams that feel like it's Stanley Cup or bust. And honestly, close to half of them are going to be out in the first round. This is going to be so much fun. Let's shift our focus now to basketball, as a contender in the East out there took a real big hit this week. All right, the New York Knicks got a devastating bit of news as it was announced that Julius Randle is done for the season, and it is unclear if he'll be ready for the start of next season as he undergoes surgery on his shoulder. They were trying to rehab him back to be able to get ready for the playoffs, but it is now apparent that that is not going to be the case. This is devastating for the Knicks. They had a 14-2 run with him in January, the best month that they have had as a team. And since he has left, they are 15-14 without him. And yes, he can disappear at times, and he can be incredibly frustrating at times, but this team does not make any noise, I don't think, in the playoffs without him. You look at the series right now that it could be. They might play Cleveland in the first round, and they match up really well against the Cavs, as we found out last postseason, but they might also end up facing Orlando. Now, Orlando's offense isn't great, and going up against the Tibbs defense, like, we could get some old school, like, Pistons-Pacers games where it's 74-73 with 2 minutes to go, but Orlando is an elite defensive team, and Brunson is going to need some help if they are going to face the Magic. And then if they're going to make any noise after that, right? Like, after they made the OG trade, and then they went out and got Bogdanovich and someone else whose name I'm blanking on at this exact moment, but they went out and really made some moves, and it looked like this could be a serious contender in the East. And now, with no Randle, it does kind of feel like they are a team that, well, if we get to the second round, that'll be fine. And so that has to be just heartbreaking for this really, really good Knicks team. They're probably going to end up in the 4-5, which means they get the Celtics in the second round probably. And that is just not a matchup they're going to be able to win. It would have been really difficult for them to do it, even with Randle. But I do think defensively, like with OG playing the way he is, and with Brunson out of his mind, you could have a bit of a surprise. Without Randle, I just don't see it. And so it sucks, because the Knicks, it's more fun when the Knicks are fun, and they have been a whole lot of fun this year, but now they really know they have to figure it out without Julius Randle. Also, Joel Embiid, 30 minutes in his return. Nick Nurse, is always going to Nick Nurse. And he Nick Nursed all over that. Just absolutely wearing Joel Embiid out. I think the 76ers could be a problem in the play-in, and I think if Joel is healthy, would be a really interesting matchup for a Milwaukee or a Boston in round one. But I think the Celtics would eventually just kill them. So interesting to see as we kind of play out the string here in the NBA. Also, we have established the NBA season's too long, right? Like all of these guys sitting out with injuries and stuff now. Just make it 72 games. Make it 72 games. Have the play-in, or not the play-in, sorry. We'll have the play-in. But the in-season tournament, have it be whatever. Maybe even don't have it count for the regular season. I don't know. People seem to be in the tournament now. But it's too long. The season is too long. These guys aren't playing in these games. And it's the problem we were having last year, where now that they've all reached their 65, so we're getting this problem later in the season, but these are the games that are supposed to be the most important, and we're seeing guys sitting out on a nightly basis. It's incredibly frustrating. All right, for those of you who are just into the real sports, you can bail now if you need, because the rest of this is all going to be about professional wrestling as we get ready for WrestleMania 40. I am so excited for WrestleMania this year. As we get closer, and it's just like time is crawling towards the weekend as we get ready for 2 nights of WrestleMania. It is going to be an absolute blast. A chance for Cody to finish the story. And while that will be an amazing WrestleMania moment, and there are so many potential WrestleMania moments this year, I do worry we're putting a bit too much focus on that. And now hear me out. Like the WrestleMania moment is the biggest thing you can get in pro wrestling, basically. There's some who would disagree with that. Obviously, a Wrestle Kingdom moment, an all-in moment, or whatever, right? Like there are different bars for different people. But like the biggest stage you can wrestle on still is WrestleMania. And so big moments there do seem to just kind of last forever. But WrestleMania doesn't have to have the monopoly on big moments, and I worry that's where WWE has gotten to. You look at it right now, Roman Reigns' title run could come to an end, 1,300 days or whatever. Seth Rollins' 300-day run could come to an end. Rhea Ripley, over a year as a champion, that could come to an end. You know, Gunther, almost 700 days as a champion, that could come to an end at WrestleMania. All of these don't have to end at WrestleMania. We can spread this out. There hasn't been a title change on a pay-per-view since November. And that was the United States Championship with Logan Paul beating Rey Mysterio at Crown Jewel. And then like before that, you have like a Night of Champions. There was a championship crown. I think Asuka beat Bianca for a title at Fastlane. But overall, they've done an amazing job of building this up. And I do think that they kind of needed to do something like this to reestablish some of these titles. Like Gunther's 700-day championship reign has absolutely made the Intercontinental title feel very important. And like a win over Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley is going to feel very important. And so I do think part of this is they just needed to reestablish the importance of these championships. And I'm not saying this needs to be the Attitude Era and you hotshot a new champion every Monday and Thursday or Friday, depending on the era, I suppose. But I do worry that it's become a little bit predictable in that, it's, what's this paper? It's Backlash. No, we're not going to have a title change of Backlash. We're going to wait till SummerSlam and we're going to wait till WrestleMania. And so I just feel like it's become a little bit too, well, this is the WrestleMania moment. And what a big moment it'll be to beat Gunther at WrestleMania or to beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. And so I just feel like in the next WWE year, right? Because this is essentially the night after WrestleMania is New Year's Day for the WWE. In this next WWE year, I would like there to be a little bit more focus on making it a little bit more unpredictable, I guess, around the Blue Jays. Or sorry, I got a text. Sorry, around these championship changes and stuff like that. Because it feels like every title now, okay, we need to have a long run and it needs to end at WrestleMania. Like that. There can be a little bit of in between there. So I would like a little bit more spontaneity, I guess, with some of these title changes in the future. the night after WrestleMania, as I said, feels like it's New Year's Day. And a lot of times we have had a few debuts. Like we had Brock Lesnar coming back that one year. Enzo and Big Cass debuted. I believe they debuted on that show. Either way, we've had in the past some big moments on the night after WrestleMania. And so I have put together a list of 5 of who I think could show up the night after WrestleMania at Monday Night Raw. Number 1, this one seems obvious. It's Carmelo Hayes. He has passed the level that is NXT. He is so ready for the main roster, and I think he would be an amazing addition to this roster, 100%. The next one is Tama Tonga. Don't know where he would fit in all of it, but I think that he is absolutely someone who, like, he apparently has signed with the WWE. I have always been very intrigued by his talent, and so it wouldn't be the biggest splash, but I think having him debut in front of a quote-unquote smart audience would be a smart thing for them to do. Same thing with Julia, coming over from Stardom. I just like this is a superstar in the making, I think. And again, you have her debut with a bit of a smart audience. It sounds like she's coming over to WWE. If you wanted to start her in NXT, I would understand, because she doesn't necessarily have the biggest name. So if you wanted to build that up a little bit, by all means, go for it. But I do think Julia coming over from Stardom could be something we see at the night after WrestleMania. Roxanne Perez. This one's tricky because they have just started a heel character with her, and if they want to see how she progresses as a heel in this role, then we could see her in NXT for a little bit longer. I personally don't think she needed the heel character. I think her as a babyface was going to be fine. She is a tremendous performer and has been main roster ready, I think, for about a year now. So I hope we see her kind of get a bit more add a bit of life to the women's division on either Raw or SmackDown. And then the last one is the current NXT champion, Ilya Dragunov. He has also been main roster ready for a little bit. He's quite over the top at times, and so that has soured me on the character a little bit. His title reign has not been all that great, but I do think that, like, he has also kind of passed the level of NXT. And lastly, some other stuff going on in the world of wrestling. This is obviously a big time in the world of wrestling. And so it's a good time. We do this on the MMA previews as well. Just take a step back. Let's see what else is going on in the world of wrestling right now. And, like, quite honestly, WWE has taken up a lot of the air in the world of professional wrestling. Like, it feels like things have very much cooled down on AEW. There isn't a whole lot of buzz around a whole lot with New Japan right now. Now, that'll pick up probably around the summer, but there is so much focus on WWE right now, and quite frankly, how well things are going with WWE, that it has been tough to get some room, and that hasn't always been the case. Like, you could say, oh yeah, it's WrestleMania, but there have been WrestleManias. Like, I remember when we went to WrestleMania back in Dallas at WrestleMania 32. You would have, like, that there are so many indie shows that you were kind of more excited for, and then now let's go see WrestleMania because it's the pageantry and it's the big show and all of those things. But now, like, it is WWE dominating. AEW hasn't really had a story that's clicked, right? Like, they've had matches that have been very fun, and this has been a criticism for a while, but there just isn't that story. There isn't that thing that has really hooked me onto AEW, really post-Sting retirement. Same thing for New Japan. Some of the matches and some of the shows that I'm excited for this weekend, that if I were in Philadelphia, I would be checking out. The first one is, it's probably already happened by the time you hear this, but I do want to mention Stardom American Dream. That one is on Triller on pay-per-view right now. Also later on tonight, it is Shayna Baszler against Masha Slamovich. That is at Bloodsport. Same with Nick Nemeth against Speedball Mike Bailey. Mike Bailey was kind of the superstar of last year. I wonder if Slamovich is going to be at this year, because she shows up on this list a few times. But that Bloodsport show is tonight. That'll be a whole lot of fun. Love Shayna Baszler's involvement in this. You have Slamovich also against Shuri. That one's at the JCW combined card. That one is also tonight. That'll be a blast. On Friday, there's a Tokyo Joshi Pro show that I think is quite intriguing. There's a lot of talented performers on that one as well. Same thing goes for the House of Glory show and Wrestling Revival. I think it's called. I might have written it down wrong. I apologize. But Alex Shelley against Mike Santana, Amazing Red against Mustafa Ali is going to be incredible. And then Mike Bailey against Slamovich again. I think that's going to be a really intriguing match. A couple more here. Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. They have a Stardom Showcase match on there. Plus Eddie Kingston against Mark Briscoe for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. That will be an absolute blast. Also, I'm interested to see new presentation for Dalton Castle after the boys were released earlier this week. On GCW Joey Janela Spring Break 8, there are so many matches. I couldn't just pinpoint a couple. There's a lot of really intriguing ones. Saturday, I just love Kaiju Big Battle. We went to the show at midnight on WrestleMania weekend when we were there 8 years ago, and it was so weird and so much fun. So you just, if you're in Philly, you have to check that out. And then lastly, Joey Janela's Spring Break Clusterfuck. They're doing a Punjabi prison match featuring, like, Jacob Fatu's in it. The Bollywood Boys are in there as well. I forget who all the other teams are, but it's just... that is so weird, you have to check it out. So there is still some good stuff. But yeah, WWE is absolutely dominating the weekend as we get ready for WrestleMania. The full preview for WrestleMania comes out tomorrow. So excited to run this thing down. Twitch.tv/primetimepk. You can check me out there. We've been doing a lot of WWE 2K to get ready for WrestleMania. That's going to continue both today and tomorrow as well. Also, find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein, twitch.tv/primetimepk, and you can email the show, couchpotatodiary@yahoo.com. The WrestleMania stuff is going to be the fights portion of Fights and Football Friday. On the football portion, going to be looking at how free agency this year has affected both the fantasy football world and the draft world, plus more on how the trade for Stephon Diggs affects both fantasy football and the draft as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're listening in podcast form, leave a review and subscribe. If you are watching, make sure you subscribe and like and leave a comment. All that stuff helps me out immensely. I'm having a blast doing these shows. Really want to start growing this thing. So please help me out with that. And I'll talk to you guys later. I am out.